Hello everybody!
Hi.
It's been a while since we've done a thing with me in it, so I guess we are making another chaotic review. Today we're gonna be talking about the Witcher RPG. Unless you are Robert Eggert, then it's the Witcher RPG.
The most pretentious movie I have ever seen about witches.
I know. I hate pretentious cinema. Maybe we should be talking about movies too. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, today we're gonna be talking about the Witcher RPG written by Janusz Sapkowski, and I mean the books written by Janusz Sapkowski. The RPG is written by two Pondsmiths.
Yes, and it's published by Artal Sorian Games in cooperation with CD Projekt Red, because it's kind of based on the video games as well. Well, seeing as we're talking about The Witcher, you can already expect plenty of very hermetic Polish things in it.
Yeah.
Because it's our thing.
Yeah, we kind of grew up with that. It might be like a new fad in the West, but we kind of grew up with Janusz's artwork and what?
Well, I read those books first when I was like 10.
Yeah,
It was way too early and it traumatized me for life. Everything you see here, it's because of... Nah, it's not because of that, but
No.
it was a big part. I had so many nightmares.
Well, yeah, basically not big. I mean, the books are kind of a sort of, they have like kind of an epic status in Polish fantasy literature, but not on their own merit really. It's mostly because of the generally being the only fish in the sea kind of a thing. But this is not what we're going to be talking about. We're also not going to be talking about how the world of The Witcher is actually just Europe that is flipped like this and then mirrored, or the fact that it's complicated propaganda history-ish related. This is besides the point. If you guys are interested, we can make an entire feuilleton ranting about Janusz's and their entire thing. Right, so let's talk about the RPG. So I'm gonna go through mechanics, and Anna is gonna go through the world of The Witcher because she's very excited about it.
And we will go off tangents anyway, so...
Yes, but that's the best way to refrain me from being very, very salty about it, because I really like Janusz. And the thing about The Witcher RPG is that it is generally based on the Witcher video game series more than it is based on the books.
Which is a good choice.
A very good choice. And therefore all the Witcher literary tangents we would go about are completely besides the point, so we are going to try to keep them to a minimum. But that's the important distinction that you have to go into the game with. It's not the Witcher game based on the books of The Witcher, it's not based on the world of the books of The Witcher, because, to be honest, to quote Janusz himself, there isn't a world of The Witcher, it's just the background for the events he felt like writing after a couple bottles too many, and that's what it is. So all the world of The Witcher there is, as a Western enjoyer of video games or the books, with the experience of the world of The Witcher built by the video games, you ain't missing anything. Don't let any hipster tell you otherwise, because the video games developed the world more than the author did. And
The author doesn't even know where Yaruga is.
he might think it's a person. Anyway, the book is based on the video games, and if you played Witcher 2, 3 and even 1 somehow. So yeah, generally Witcher 1 is a very difficult experience, but I hear it's getting a remaster, so if you haven't played it...
Is it?
Yeah, and the Witcher 2 as well. I heard it's getting a remaster to like run on like Witcher 3's engine and stuff.
I'm gonna play them then.
It may be a rumor. Because, so I heard, but I don't know. As far as the game's mechanics go, and the presentation of the world and things, I actually have to say I am very impressed. The Pondsmiths did really good job. The mechanics, they are very coherent, they are very fluent, and they run smoothly. They have no noticeable snags. I mean, I would probably have to play the system many more hours to find something to bitch about, which is something that I can't say about most RPGs, because I am awful.
Jakub was reading this book in bed for his evening meal, and yeah, basically every day was like, oh, this is nice. Oh, I like it. I'm gonna steal this subsystem.
Yes, that's. I mean, it's.
That's the
I'm gonna
highest
licencia poetica this subsystem. Excuse me. I am very impressed. It's a very professionally and very neatly done mechanics that have very few elements that don't need to be there, which is something I like very much. I personally believe that the game engine, whether it's a video game or a tabletop RPG or a board game, it's not complete where you have nothing more to add to it, to the experience. It's complete where you have nothing more to like remove from the experience without the whole thing breaking apart. Because I believe that games should be as easy to learn and play as possible, and that's the first step to actually making a good game. And the Witcher RPG very much like goes through this swimmingly. It's amazing in that regard. I read this book once and I immediately knew how to play the game, which is something that you really can't say about most RPGs. However, there is a little bit of, if I would have to be nitpicky.
You don't.
Fine.
But you will.
Yes, I will. The language is a little stiff in places, like for example on page 49, this is page 93, thank you. This is like the biggest flaw of the book, so hear me out. Home language. You are considered fluent in the language of your homeland, is the example of some sentences in this book, and that's the worst thing I can say about it. Take that as you will.
But you start with a +8 in your own home language.
Yeah, that's just mechanics. That doesn't matter. It's just the fact that some sentences are like that you are considered fluent in your language. Some of it is a little stiff, and other than that, this book has no noticeable errors that I could see on general glancing. I'm sure if I would like play multiple hours in it and like multiple sessions, I would find something to be nitpicky about. But this is just an allegation because I haven't found anything. It feels weird.
All my experience playing The Witcher, the RPG, is that I tried once, I had an elf, and my game master decided that he doesn't like the elves in the Witcher universe, so my elf was basically a Warhammer elf. What was the difference? I don't know, and I didn't care. And also, one person was a Witcher and the rest was sidekicks, and we didn't like it, and we didn't play the second session. You may have already heard about the world of The Witcher as the Slavic fantasy, and I am here to tell you that it ain't. It ain't.
Well, the Witcher video games have more to do with Slavic mythology and religions and culture than the books, because Janusz really hates being based on Slavic mythology.
Yes.
Like, if the author himself tells you, then you probably should listen to the author.
Well, if you know how to read Polish, congratulations. He actually wrote a very long essay about completely trashing the idea of Slavic fantasy, which, well, it was a required reading for people growing up in Poland who were interested in fantasy, and Sapkowski was very much open about how he hates the idea of the Slavic fantasy because it simply doesn't vibe and it doesn't work together, and he was mostly right.
As much as I hate to admit.
As much as it pains us to admit it.
Well, you by osmosis, I don't think you have anything against Janusz.
You know what? I've been to some conventions where Sapkowski was the main guest of the event, and I've been to interviews with him, and I happened to talk to him a couple of times, including a short conversation we had about role-playing games in general.
Does he even know what those are?
He knows. He actually authored a role-playing game himself, The Eye of Erchidespes, but other people don't. And I talked to him about that and what he thinks about the hobby in general, and I don't want to misquote him because I first have to translate, and also it was 10 years ago. He said something to the term of, I hate those RPG players. I go to a convention when I'm the most important person and they are just sitting there in corridors rolling dice and not paying any attention to me. I told you it's gonna be the video of the tangents. In any case, the world of The Witcher is not really Slavic. The author doesn't like Slavic fantasy.
The video game world is actually more Slavic than the source material, but it is hard to say that it's in any way has to do anything with Slavic culture in general, because what did they do that Slavic? They made the Utopce and Południce in there.
Yes.
Well,
And the little godlings.
yes, and they misspelled Kikimora.
And Keira Metz has red corals on her.
Yeah. Oh, and you are in Witcher 3 when you're upgrading your weapons, you have like Veles and Perun and stuff runes for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I guess they had to name them something, so they figured, yeah.
And the Guślarz.
Yes.
in any case.
Yeah, that's about as Slavic as it gets. However, misspelling Kikimora is probably the most Slavic thing you could do, because so they get points for that. I'm not kidding, this is like the most Slavic thing imaginable.
Well, the world is actually based way more on things like the Arthurian legends and the Western European fairy tales, so there's plenty of references to stuff like the Beauty and the Beast
And Disney cartoons.
and Disney cartoons.
So that's what The Witcher is based off mostly, the popular Hans Christian Andersen books and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the Brothers Grimm.
Yeah.
You know most of those stories, just like you know the story of King Arthur. And honestly, with that, you can delve into the world of The Witcher and expect just a standard-ish fantasy that's not grimdark, but it's also not high fantasy. You're not gonna become half-gods. So...
I mean, I do disagree a little bit about the language of the book itself and how the book is presented. It is presented as dark fantasy. It's not presented as grim dark fantasy per se, but it is like edgy fantasy.
it's
Like,
supposed to be realistic.
yes, it's like the rules don't really support that, because the rules are really fluent and like nice to play. But the world itself is described like the Oregon Trail and stuff.
Yes.
Like, I guess the authors themselves are gonna be able to tell you that in one of the first paragraphs in the book. Dark fantasy Witcher style. If you look through a table of contents, you may have noticed that it has very large Game Master's Guide. And it needs it. It does.
Well,
So-
like most games that come with already existing and fleshed out world, you do have to expect yourself to actually read about the world and the continent that this whole thing is taking place on. It's probably not a system in which you are going to create the whole world for your home game and just come up with the stuff on your own. This is one of those games where the settings are an integral part of it, and you probably could use mechanics elsewhere, but they are ingrained with the setting and the existence of particular monsters and particular professions, such as the Witchers. So
Yeah, it's definitely not a system that's conducive to homebrewing. Like, if you want to use those mechanics for something else, you generally could, because they are not like super specific. But if you want to actually ingrain them into your homebrew, then you might as well just make your own RPG, because it's gonna take a lot of work. Anyway, yeah, I think we've said everything about this book more or less. So yeah. I'm sure, jokes aside, thank you guys for sticking with us. We literally ran out of things to say. I hope you enjoyed it. You can let us know in the comments if you want to see any particular RPG. Yes, pick up The Witcher. Oh, and yeah, there is also a Polish version of this book, and it is much older, and this one's actually based on the books.
And on the Polish TV series.
They also, and on the Polish TV series, and they also misspell Kikimora. So if you are, I don't think it's available in English in any way, shape or form. But if you do manage to catch it, it's absolutely worth a read, because then you can see how much better this version of The Witcher is than the Polish one. And if you've been complaining about the Netflix Witcher TV series, you can watch the Polish version of it, which is actually based on the short stories and follows them rather faithfully-ish, except for moments like the elves attack on.
You talked about it in the last video.
Yes. Jokes aside from like the absolutely obscure meme value, this show is pretty goddamn awful.
It's terrible. Highly recommended.
Yes, absolutely. You should watch it even if you don't speak Polish. Like, watch an episode just so you can appreciate the Netflix version.
I'm gonna see if I can find a version with English subtitles, because this is absolutely
Yes, the rubber dragon and and
everything.
And the piękne cięcie z amerykańskiej szabli, kurwa. That is just the best. That show has so much of like sauerkraut meme value. It's just baked.
In short, if you ever want us to talk about Witcher again, don't.
But hey, if you think I'm salty about Sapkowski, you should hear me talk about Lem.
I guess at some point we're just going to branch out into making videos about movies and books.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna get some volume and get on it. It's not gonna...
Guys, I don't know. Like, subscribe,
Have a nice day.
give us a comment,
Yeah, say,
feed the algorithm.
tell your mom you love her.
Oh yeah, that's... I mean,
I
if
already
you do.
did, but you can do it too. Yeah, we should probably end this video because we are really tired.
We've been talking nonsense for 23 minutes.
Yes, I think that's none of that is going to end in the actual video, and if it does, may God have mercy on your soul. Bye.
So you're just spouting Reddit
Yes.
conspiracy.
Yes, I am a tool of absolute chaos and disinformation.
How?
I don't know, Kikimoras suck. If you stab it, you know.
Well, there you go. Recording has started.
Oh, did it?
Yes. You can see the numbers on the top.
Oh yeah, I was wondering what is that. I thought it was a bomb.
A huge thank you to all of you who joined our Patreon, especially our champions. Your continued support helps us immensely with our books and the channel. Thank you.